Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. It's Thursday. Happy Thursday. It's windy, so the hair's all over the place. Bugsy Malone's over there. She's angry. She brought a ball today with her so I could throw it for her, and she chewed it up into a million pieces. And then she starts barking at me, angry that I didn't bring a second ball. It reminds me, no disrespect, Danny Kiriakou, I love you to pieces, but it reminds me of a group chat when we had, I think it was a year ago, or maybe it was under Conte, when we had 5 or 6 injuries to the left wing spot at the same time, and you were furious with Daniel Levy for not having an 8th left winger, just on the off chance that the first 7 got injured. I'm not even joking, but I do love you anyway. Yeah, unfortunate for her, but I only bring one ball at a time, but I do bring more than one story. Listen, we've got a few to get through, and then I want to talk a little bit more about just some more thoughts off my chest about Daniel Levy and FFP PSR towards the end. The chapters will be below. Also, guys, if you would rather listen to this, watch this stuff on Spotify, if that's your jam, or Apple Podcast, whatever, then you can find the link to Spotify in the link below, in the description below. I know a lot of people like that stuff, and I'm trying to build that channel out as well. There's only about 100 people that follow me on it, so if a lot of you could go over there, hit the link, it would be sensational, just in case that's your jam. Also, please hit the like button for me. Really appreciate all your like game. As you know, we're over 1,000 likes, sometimes 2,000 likes on every video, and it's all because of you, and the support helps the channel so much. Guys, let's get straight into it. Also, don't forget subscriptions and notification bell buttons pushed too. Right, so let's start at the very top. In fact, no, let's start with the noise that almost tempted me to come out and make a third video last night. So I did the video with Johnny, the Devil's Advocate, that finished. And then as soon as that finished, I see the news that Heung Min's son has responded to noise or questions around his departure. And I was like, I haven't seen any links with him being linked away. The only people that I can think of that have ever actually even posited that are people like myself and a few other channels who are okay with the idea of cashing in because of our limited budget. But apparently journalists have got wind that there's rumours that he might be leaving, and he was asked, he wasn't happy about it. So I did that video and a few other bits in there, and then I get back and sod's law, the second that I upload that, 2 more stories drop that are kind of palpable and powerful, and I actually think the lesser of interesting ones to what you're probably going to think is more interesting, more meaningful, and more impactful on our plans than the other. The first is Hiroki Ito. You know, I've been speaking about this guy for 2 years. I discovered him a long time ago when I was looking for left-sided centre-backs with left foot that could play for Antonio Conte. Then when Ange Postecoglou arrived, I thought this guy would be a perfect fit because Ange likes to discover Japanese talent from places that are slightly under the radar, and no disrespect to Stuttgart, but you wouldn't say that they're, you know, I guess very well followed outside of maybe Stuttgart. And so I've kept an eye on him the whole time. Martin Walton, shout out to you, reminded me of him a couple of weeks ago, so we kept an eye on it. And then all of a sudden, the links emerge within a couple of days of us talking about it that he's linked to Tottenham, and then the link strengthened, and he's now linked to Bayern Munich. I mentioned that Christian Bald, I think his name is, the Bayern Munich guy on Twitter, who usually is right when he's talking about Bayern, says that Tottenham and Bayern are in, or were in, direct competition for the guy with £25 million or million euro asking price. Well, you know what, guys, I'm sorry to say, but the news is he has chosen Bayern Munich, agreed terms, and Munich are going to pay the €25 million fee. And to me, it is a real kick in the gut, a massive kick in the gut, not just purely because I have, you know, I guess like a bit of an affiliation with him because I followed him for a while, and he's, you know, one of the first sort of names that I mentioned on the channel that, you know, I'd identified rather than being in the news, so to speak. But more than that is that he killed 2 birds with 1 stone and would have been brilliant in our system. A ball-playing, left-footed, left-sided centre-back that is just as equally good at left back. He would have been excellent as an understudy to Micky Van De Ven at left back, as an understudy to Destiny Udogie at left side centre-back for Van De Ven, and at left back for Udogie. Coming in the inversion, the guy's got some of the best passing stats in defensive football in the world. And given our possession play, he's not going to be asked to do too much in the way of defence. His statistics defensively were never spectacular, but as I said all the time, that was the way that Stuttgart asked him to play, which is a similar style to the way that Tottenham would have played. And for 25 million euros, you could have just had an absolute piece of magic. Like we know we need a striker, we know we need a left wing, we know we need a competition for Maddison, we know we need a 6, we know we need a replacement for Emerson Royal, who can play either left back and right back, like a utility fullback, and we needed a left-sided centre back to square up the 4 options. And those 3 defensive options that we have, that we're looking for, that right back, left back, and this left-sided centre back, they're the least important in terms of priority because we already have a settled first 11 in the back, but they still have to be done. And so if you could find a way to get a player that could kill 2 birds with 1 stone and do it on the cheap, and £25 million for a player of his quality is nothing in this day and age, it's crazy to me that we didn't compete. Now, maybe that deal with Bayern Munich, I understand Bayern Munich have got a bigger brand, a bigger draw. He was already in Germany. I totally get it. You know, some people are referencing the fact that I can't believe this would be a problem on an individual level, but maybe in a bigger picture thing, Japanese and Koreans don't get on because of history, and so maybe there'd be some issue there. But I don't believe that would have been a case on an individual person-to-person level. But to lose out on Ito, the consequences of that are quite meaningful. What that means is now Tottenham have to go and find a left-sided centre-back that can also play left-back, like the similar sort of value proposition of Ito, but that also is good on the ball, that can also handle the inversion, that doesn't cost a fortune, and that ticks as many boxes as Ito did or does. And you know what? I spent 2 hours last night looking through the Y-Scout, going through the entire trawl of every professional football player, filtered by left-footed, that has played or can play in both of these positions, from the top 5 European leagues, from South America. There's very few. There are very, very few that I would look at and think, okay, they tick all the boxes from a kind of capabilities perspective. Are they good enough though? Are they available? What's their experience? Where are they from? The only other name that I saw that can do both of those 2 positions and do it well, and we've been linked with him in the past, by the way, is Arthur Theate, I don't know how you say his name, Theate, from, I think he's from Rennes. So don't be surprised to see if that name links up again. The alternative though, we don't have to get a left back and a left-sided centre-back. You can get a utility full-back, which brings us back to the Kyle Walker-Peters idea. Or, there's several other fullbacks that can do left back and right back, but I'm not sure if that's the guy, because I think that Tottenham are looking at VANDERSON. I think Tottenham have seemed like they have advanced movements towards VANDERSON in to replace Emerson Royal. Now, I don't know if VANDERSON can play left back, but I haven't seen it on the Y-Scout tour. It doesn't show that he's got any minutes, or particularly any minutes in that direction. So then the option, so if you can't do that, if you can't get a left back and a right back that can do both, apart from like Kyle Walker-Peters, and of course he counts as homegrown and club trained, and there's another story out regarding Ollie Skip leaving the club today or this week to go to Leeds alongside Joe Rodon. And so if that was to happen, if there's any meaningful truth and substance to that, then that leaves our homegrown numbers and our club trained numbers in even more of a problematic situation, which gives even more credibility to the idea of signing a player like Kyle Walker-Peters. Now, for what it's worth, I'm not a fan of Kyle Walker-Peters. I'm not a fan of the fact that a player that was supposed to be as good as he was decided to go down with the ship to the Championship for a year. And he wasn't particularly spectacular in the Championship. So I've got question marks around his ambition. I've got question marks around, is he anywhere near good enough, even as a rotation player? But we're playing a lot of games next season. Injuries will happen. Now, I know Pedro Porro, touchwood, doesn't get injured too often, but Udogie's got that frame on him. It reminds me of Reece James, that eventually the toll it will take on his body, his heavy, big frame body, doing 100-metre sprints every 5 minutes, will eventually see him with, I believe, plenty of time out. And so how do you feel about Kyle Walker-Peters slipping in? not great, if I'm entirely honest. So for me, the Hiroki Ito loss is a massive, massive blow. I tell you what else is a blow, is losing Lloyd Kelly to Newcastle, who's just signed a 5-year deal. I know most of you don't like Lloyd Kelly because of, for whatever reason, you think he's not good enough at Bournemouth. For me, I believe you haven't seen the best version of him because he was injured for most of last season in a Bournemouth team that played more progressively. In previous eras under Bournemouth, they've been low blocked, so you haven't seen him spread his legs. You haven't seen his pace, you haven't seen his recovery, and you haven't seen his ability to kind of time the tackles and his spatial awareness. All of those things are top notch from me. He would have been perfect in this system. And Tottenham bid £20 million for him, I believe, in January. So how on God's green earth did we just let that one slip through the net and let Newcastle run at him unchallenged? I feel a little bit concerned, guys, not to get negative, not just because of the news about Ito. I'll get over Ito, we'll figure it out, right? But I do feel a little bit concerned about, it seems like we're slow out of the gates, to be honest. I know we've got Timo Werner done, but that's probably been a conversation that's been happening for ages. And then since then, I feel like we're a little bit slow out of the traps here, and other teams are making moves. Chelsea have already signed Tosin Adarabioyo on a free. Chelsea was supposed to be the team that had to sell before they could buy or get themselves in financial trouble. They're now also looking at Duran from Aston Villa. Aston Villa are making moves, trying to get themselves right of their FFP situation. There's lots and lots of things happening around us at teams that we're competing with, and not a lot of noise coming out of Tottenham regarding players coming in that are advanced. In terms of players going out, Ndombele yesterday did his exit interview and said basically Tottenham's the best club in London, yada, yada, yada. I'm not even going to bother reading it out because I don't care. I just don't care. Albert Gudmundsson is the next story. Here's an interesting one for you. I spoke to you about him before. If Tottenham are only going to get one forward, as Romero suggested, and if he means by that one that covers the left wing, the right wing, and the striker, and again, speculation, I don't know what he means, I'm not going to interpret it, but Gudmundsson would have been one of the few that can play a little bit of everywhere. And Tottenham, I was under the impression that Genoa and him had agreed to tie down another contract, or for him to stay and commit to Genoa. But in actual fact, what's really strange is that in like 6 or 7 different stories this morning, Gudmundsson to Tottenham is back on. And if that's the case, maybe that's down to the 777 partners, Ponzi scheme issues that are catching up with them that I talked to you about 2 weeks ago. I do believe that all the teams that are associated with 777 partners are going to have issues because there's no smoke without fire without that club. And you know what? Ponzi schemes are essentially pushing money around on paper to look like you're booking profits. If you don't know what a Ponzi scheme is, early investors get involved, give someone money. They'll then pretend as though they're investing it and delivering incredible returns above the market expectations. And then because of that, the early investors put more money in. They tell their friends, their investors put more money in, and the people that put their money in last of all are the ones that are then paying out the abnormal and excessive returns that don't really exist. Bernie Madoff was a perfect example of one of these guys. Anyway, that all starts with pushing money around on paper to book profits that don't exist by just shifting assets between shell companies. And so 777 partners look like it, and to a degree you could argue that Chelsea are starting to look like it, the way that they are literally finding money and profits on paper by just handing over the keys to somebody else in the same family to the training ground or to the hotels. It's all very strange. We will see how it works out. But Gudmundsson anyway is linked to Tottenham again today all over the place, but then in other stories, in other aggregators, in other mainstream media, he's saying that he's accused of sexual assault from 2023. He's been arrested, or a warrant is out for his arrest or something. Again, all alleged. I don't know what I'm talking about here. I'm just reading my notes. And yeah, that's a massive potential criminal conviction hanging over his head. So I would expect that story is true. I would also expect that 777 partners are in trouble. Maybe they know one thing's going to happen before the other. And similar to the AC Milan Tonali story, where there's the suspicions that Tonali was sold by Milan because they knew what was coming with regards to his gambling things, and Newcastle were suckered into that one. But I don't want to touch Gudmundsson anymore with that sort of behaviour. We can't have people, I'm sorry to say it, innocent until proven guilty 100%. I have no idea about the story. But what I would say is that the crowds at away days will not care. Just like I think his Icelandic international, was it Udogie Johnson? Was that the guy's name? Who was, I believe, also arrested and charged with or something. And I don't think he ever played again for Everton. I don't believe he did. I'm not sure if he's in prison or what happened. I'm not sure of the story. But in any event, Mason Greenwood, same sort of thing. Doesn't matter whether you did or you didn't do what you're alleged to have done. It doesn't matter whether or not the police will convict you of what you have or haven't done. The court of public opinion is never louder than in the stands on a football stadium, and that's why I don't believe any of these people should be associated with Tottenham, nor do I believe they should be playing football at all until they've cleared their air and cleared their name. So yeah, Hiroki Ito we've lost out on. We've lost out on Lloyd Kelly, two players that killed two birds with one stone. Here's the consequences of not getting one of those things done by sleeping at the wheel a little bit here, Tottenham Hotspur, is that now we need to go and find either a straight up left back who can maybe play right back, like the Cambiasso fella from Juventus. He's an example. Like Kyle Walker-Peters, who underwhelms me entirely. Or you go and get 3 different positions that are specialists in each one and chew up 90% of your budget for players that are rotation squad. They're going to get minutes, of course, but they don't immediately help the first team. And you know what? There's more and more stories today about this Murillo from Nottingham Forest. I spoke about him yesterday. I love the player. Fantastic. He's going to be Brazil's left-sided, left-footed centre-back. But £70 million on a guy who's been here 1 year? And he wasn't like unbelievable. He wasn't unbelievable in any way, shape or form. But £70 million is too much. But listen, I do believe he's going to be an excellent option. And according to Nottingham Forest media, he is the story that is much more likely to materialise than Hudson-Odoi and or Morgan Gibbs-White. Now listen, the second major story I wanted to get to you today is, of course, about Romero to Real Madrid. Came out last night that Real Madrid's camp have identified him and said that they really want him to become part of the new Galacticos. And what worries me is that in a lot of the reports, there's apparently sources close to the camp, the Romero camp, are saying that he is very much up for the move. The only thing that's stopping it, according to the phrasing here, is that Real Madrid acknowledge that Daniel Levy is one of the toughest negotiators in world football. And you know what? I know I defend Daniel Levy a lot because I feel like he gets too much criticism, and I feel like in the interest of balance, I'll throw the other side. This idea that he is a brilliantly tough negotiator, this PR that he has, that he's always had at Tottenham for the last 20 years, I think is a load of waffle. I think negotiations start in good faith. I think it's a lot easier, simpler, to be able to go into a negotiation before you know what you're dealing with, before you know what the other person's version of himself is. And again, this is part of my work history, something I learned along the way, is that you go in open-minded, you go in with good faith, you go in to try to find a resolution where everyone has a little bit of compromise, but everyone can find a win in it, and it's a win-win situation. Daniel Levy is the sort of guy who goes into every negotiation seeing it as a zero-sum game where someone has to win and someone has to lose. And if you do that, then you may end up winning a few, but you're going to lose a lot more. He's always praised for getting peak valuation on the players along the way that forced the sale. Modric, Berbatov, Carrick, to name a few. He didn't accept the penny less. Harry Kane didn't accept the penny less than what he wanted and got his number, but at what cost? Well, the cost was that you ran out of time to find replacements. So you might have won the negotiation in terms of you didn't budge, but in reality, you have lost the war in terms of trying to do what's in the best interest of Tottenham to continue in the momentum that we had. So for those of you who think that I always defend Daniel Levy, I don't. I'm very critical. I hate his negotiation style. I hate it. I hate the fact that he's got a reputation for being basically a bad faith actor, for breaking promises. And it makes it incredibly difficult for him to pick up the phone and to be able to have engaging conversations that might lead to positive outcomes for players that are coming in. We've seen that before. I think that's probably one of the reasons why Brentford decided to do what they did with Raya to us and not with Arsenal. Anyway, that's the story, that Romero to Real Madrid. Real Madrid want him. Generally speaking, when Real Madrid wants someone, it usually happens. The player would, of course, have no loyalties to Tottenham above and beyond just the fact that he's been here for a few years. However, having said that, in all recent interviews, he has shown nothing but praise for Tottenham, for Ange. He thinks we're getting better. I've seen him kissing the badge when he scores a goal. All the things that changed my mind on him, because this time last year, or December of 2022, as the World Cup was approaching, 2023, I saw some behaviour that I interpreted as a prioritisation of country over club, and I didn't particularly like it. But this season just finished, I've seen a more mature version of him. I've seen a more calm, measured, but yet still tenacious, fiery, leader-type player, and I'd love it if he could stay and eventually let him go off and play for the best team in the world, for sure, but not for a couple more years yet, unless monster money comes in. And considering we paid about 45, 50 million quid for him, I think it was 40 million quid, then to me, for Romero, you're going to look for 85 million pound plus to make it worthwhile. He's still got a long time on his contract, no need to sell. He might make it difficult and want to go. As I say, the quote says that his camp is looking for a move, but we shall see. I'm sure right now all he cares about is Argentina. And maybe that's the idea though, right? Maybe if you do sell Romero, which would be a massive blow to Tottenham's plans and Ange's plans, maybe then you do have the money to be able to go and drop big money on a Murillo, if that's the guy that you think is the next guy. You could play Dragusin on the right side, Van De Ven and Murillo in there. There's options there, but I don't want to see Tottenham spending massive amounts of money on a fourth centre-back and also either a hybrid full-back or an individual left-back, individual right-back, because it's going to chew up so much of our budget, and everything comes down to budgeting. How can you make your money work? And when you look at the amount of money that we are being offered for the players that are going out, it's just not happening. Ollie Skip today has been linked with Joe Rodon's move to Leeds. They want to do a double move. Daniel Farke was Skip's manager at Norwich. They like each other. That's a huge impact on our homegrown numbers. I think if he was to leave, then our first team homegrown numbers would be James Maddison, Brennan Johnson, Fraser Foster, Brandon Austin, Ben Davies and Pape Matar Sarr, who does qualify now. But Ben Davies doesn't even count for homegrown for UEFA, I don't believe. I'm not even sure regarding the club-trained homegrown things, which is absolutely something we need to figure out over the coming days. Ivan Toney, last piece of news. He has been talking, given an interview about his future, and he said he's flattered that bigger clubs are becoming interested. Right now, he's totally focused on Brentford, but he would absolutely be happy to move. So, there's again just wording in there, verbiage that he's using that shows such little respect for the fans of Brentford. Imagine how we would feel if Harry Kane put out an interview. I know he did it before with Gary Neville, but just a frequency of interview that basically said, yeah, look, whilst I'm here, but I can't wait to move to a bigger club than Tottenham. Like, it wouldn't go down well. I just think the guy is a little bit thoughtless with his, with the consequences of the words, because they're felt by the fans of Brentford, and you wouldn't like it. But I still think, unfortunately, given as yesterday's tone of video, when you look through the various options of what we have to go for, what we can afford, and if we now have to spend loads more money on other defenders because we missed out on Ito and Lloyd Kelly, like the donuts that we are, then I think that Toney makes the most sense at £40 million. Just quickly, last story, I've got one or two more stories for you. It looks like Arsenal are turning their attention to Santiago Gimenez, which is interesting. Why have they decided to move away from Tony and go to Santiago? Do they see something that a lot of people at Tottenham may not? I love Santiago Gimenez, but we will see. We will see. When it comes to Murillo, Ange has said that he does want to strengthen at the back, but whether it's 70 million quid's worth of strengthening, I don't think so, unless the Romero story is true. And the last story, guys, is that BILD, that same German newspaper who essentially get most things right when it comes to German players, especially when they're moving towards Germany, has come out and said that Dortmund, Bayern Munich, Stuttgart, and another one, Hanover, I think it was, are all very much interested in triggering the release clause of Chris FURICH. But Tottenham Hotspur are top of the list and have been in discussions with his agents and his team for weeks. As I say, I've done my work on Chris FURICH. I like Chris FURICH. I think he looks like a good player, looks tricky, looks like he does everything that you want in a winger. Lovely first touches, likes the nutmeg, etc. However, what I said is, as I went deeper into the Wisecat tool and looked at how the moves that he created ended up, and it always seems to me like not always, but a few too many times, the frequency of the final pass and delivery can be a little bit frustrating, similar to how it has been with other players that we have, like Kulusevski or Brennan Johnson or Timo Werner. And so I wonder why the release fee is 25 million. I also wonder why so many teams are thinking about it, because they're in conflict with each other. On the one hand, I think if he was that good, he would be valued a lot higher. But if he wasn't that good, then he wouldn't be desired by some of the teams that he is. Tottenham do need a winger. Tottenham now are probably going to have to spend more money than they had factored in on defenders and centre-backs and left-backs and right-backs. And it didn't have to happen this way. Tottenham are slow, guys, slow off the mark this summer. Newcastle are getting stuff done. Chelsea are getting stuff done. Aston Villa are getting stuff done. Arsenal are trying but been rejected. Tottenham really haven't done anything apart from just bring back the guy that was here last year. And you know what? It's I'm not going to say it's annoying because it's still early. The window hasn't even opened, so don't take this as like a moan. But it's just an observation. We didn't need to let that happen, and we have, and now we've got to go in a different direction, and it's going to disrupt our budgets. That's it from me. I'll see you on a live stream this evening at 6 or 7 o'clock, maybe 8 o'clock, with Henry Wright coming back on the channel. Love you guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, bye-bye.